Hello everybody and welcome back to another Walking Dead video, and today we do my review for The Walking Dead Season 11 Episode 23, Family. And let's jump right into this and talk about this episode because there's a lot that happens in this episode. And this episode is broken into only 3 plots. And the good thing about them, all 3 of these plots, they all connect at the end of the episode into one big plot. So the 3 big plots is we have Aaron and their group being herded by the Commonwealth towards the Commonwealth. And we do get a cool shot of the Commonwealth. We actually do see the Commonwealth, and it is a nice shot. We do get to see how big the Commonwealth is. And it's just very simple of that group being herded towards the Commonwealth. The next plot is about everyone at Alexandria, which is minus kind of Herschel, Annie and the kids, plus Judith for some reason, because Daryl's like, yep, I'll bring you along, Judith, because what's the harm of bringing a 13-year-old / 12-year-old, depending on when this is set, into the Commonwealth for a big battle. That is a small brain moment. However, I am happy Judith's in this episode because with Judith they do mention Rick, Carl and Michelle a lot, and I really like how they are mentioning these characters, and it does really help this episode make it feel like we're coming to the end. This is the first episode, I will say, where we actually feel like, oh shoot, we are actually about to end The Walking Dead. All the other episodes just feel like another episode. It doesn't feel like the final season, but this episode is when it hit me and I was like, Jesus, this is actually the final season, and after this is only one more episode. And I got that realization moment in this episode because of the intro, with everyone picking up their weapons, and Judith and everyone talking about Rick and how they all got here. And it was amazing, just having those few shots with those characters, just talking about them. There are lots of little moments in this. And the third plot is about Pamela and everyone trying to go find Eugene while Eugene's hiding. And then you have Mercer at the walls dealing with the walkers heading to the walls. At the start of this episode, I was a bit concerned that, oh no, this could be a filler moment when I saw the characters just kind of chilling in this building or kind of chilling in the train. However, this episode definitely need it. It wasn't filler. It was just this slow build up, and it gave us time for these really nice kind of last minute character moments with all our characters. Like I really liked Daryl's scenes. Like Daryl, this is the first time in a while that Daryl hasn't been I hate Daryl because he's just there to be the kind of main protagonist. He does nothing. Daryl has a very crucial role this episode, and I really like his scenes with Judith where he's talking about how he will at the end of this tell Judith about all the stories of Rick Grimes, and I was like, thanks, that's amazing. That's a little reference to kind of the end of the comics where Carl's telling the stories about Rick Grimes. So maybe we could actually get similar to the comic like ending. We are getting, in this episode, we do get a lot of like kind of hints at this happened in the comics, this happened in the comics, which I really liked. I also really liked the moment between Ezekiel and Negan. That was such a good moment where they talk about why Ezekiel did the thing he did last episode, and Negan just saying how he knows everyone's better than them and he wants to kind of save everyone because they're better than Negan. I just really liked Negan admitting that. That was a really good scene. I thought Maggie could have done more. I feel like Maggie was a bit shafted. I just don't know why they had all this kind of build up between Maggie and Negan having this closer bond. And it feels weird how they were like in part B and C, mostly part C, they're like, we're going to drop this and now Negan's going to have this kind of build and trust moment with Ezekiel. And you're like, okay, why are they retelling the story they just did with Maggie in part A and B with Ezekiel now? I just felt like you could have switched out Ezekiel with Maggie and it may have worked better because Maggie was just like, I don't like you, Negan, again at the start of this episode, and then she does nothing for the rest of the episode. I just thought they shafted Maggie a little, and we get a speech. This episode is filled with so many references to past seasons with dropping character names, and then we get a kind of little sub-quote, or whatever you call it, where Ezekiel mentions "Yet I smile" speech, and we get Ezekiel's little speech. It's not like his epic speeches that we got before, but we had a little speech from Ezekiel when he was talking to Negan, and I really liked these small moments they're really taking with this episode. And this episode is on your edge of the seat, like suspense the entire time, even with those small character moments. But like once the halfway mark hits, it's like, nah, we're gonna go from like 10 to 100, and you're sat there like I was pacing by the end of this episode because it was just that intense. I just loved how like gripping this episode was because all 3 of the plots were so good, with our characters going to the Commonwealth and then them fighting at the Commonwealth. Absolutely amazing. And then we have our characters in the Horde, and I really like their whispering. I feel like they could have gone further, and I feel like, bruh, if I was in that Horde, I'll be trying to scare the Commonwealth troopers by just kind of whispering loud enough that they can hear it. I just thought that'd been really cool if they were like, how about instead of just kind of walking with the Horde, we will try and freak out the troopers and use the Horde as a weapon. I feel like Aaron missed an opportunity, but that's kind of a bit weird why they would do that. But I just thought that'd be really cool if they actually went and did that. But that moment where they're in the Horde was just so good. And we had those scenes where our group gets separated in the Horde. We have Aaron, Jerry, and Lydia inside the truck. Everyone else gets separated, and we don't see some of them until the end of the episode. And there are some very big moments in this episode. I feel like each plot has a big what moment, and I don't want to spoil them. We're going to have to probably go through at the end of the episode all these each what moments, because I do want to talk about them, but maybe at the end. But each plot has these big what moments, and Jesus, they are so good. And the final plot, I feel like the one at the Commonwealth is the weakest of the three. However, they're all really good. The one at the Commonwealth is just, okay, we need to hire Eugene. Okay, this woman's going to suss Mercer. Then Mercer gets arrested, and then the walkers break in, and the guy's like screaming on the radio like, hey, we need backup. Why is no one radioing back? It just felt a bit dumb. I just felt like the soldiers are a bit dumb in this episode, and like when he's being like, a walker basically climbs up, this man's like, oh, I'll shoot that one, and then, oi, someone come here. No response, not even the guys down there like below him respond. A walker like Deus Ex Machina's behind him, and then while he's being like bitten, he's like, I'm gonna go pull the open switch. I thought I was a bit dumb. The Commonwealth troopers annoyed me in this episode, and that's like one of the only things that are bad about this episode, the Commonwealth troopers. Because all three plots were absolutely amazing and max suspenseful at 100 of intensity, the pacing was amazing. I feel like I could have dealt with a bit more, but that's a perfect way to end the episode. Just gripping me. I loved this like episode. The pacing's amazing, and I wanted more by the end of it. Also, the music was great. I really liked the end music and the start music. They have that like kind of intense like like I'm not going to do it myself, but that music, really loved the music. It was shot well. We got to some good sets. I like how now that we're in the Commonwealth, next episode's going to be an episode about our characters in a city trying to escape walkers instead of in the woods. This episode is just full on intense, no filler at all, and it just, I can't believe it went from 1 to 100. I'm really shocked how it went from this small thing to up here. However, there are some negatives. Okay, I do have to mention some negatives. Even though it was paced well, all three stories are well, the acting was amazing throughout all of the cast. I really loved all the acting. Other than, I think Lydia was a bit over the top at her moments. Like, there's a big thing with Lydia in this episode, and it was a bit over the top, and I was like, okay, Lydia, you're overselling it. You literally, our group gets separated in the walkers, and Lydia just loses it that she's not with Elijah, and you're like, Jesus, he's fine. He's just somewhere else now. And she's like, we gotta go, and you're like, oh, Lydia, you are slightly annoying. You're like the worst thing about this episode, other than maybe we get kind of no CRM references. I feel like this would have been the episode to mention the CRM, because that means the last episode has to do a lot with them teasing all this thing. The last episode has to be like, CRM, this, and you're like, okay, that last episode, even though it's an hour and a half long, has to do a lot. I feel like they could have moved some of the like the big drops and the big reveals into this episode, because there's not really any reveals. There are some amazing setups to some potential deaths in this episode. However, I do want to mention, second to last episode, still no deaths, and it's really getting on my nerves that the last major character death happened in episode 9 of season 11, or if you don't count Alden because he's like a C-list character, the last kind of B to A-list character death was Sadiq in season 10 episode 7. Why, since season 10B, have they been so scared of killing off major characters? It's really annoying me, as it's the final season and our characters still have massive plot armor. In the episodes, they are gripping, and especially this one, you forget that they have massive plot armor, or they have spin-offs in the moment when you're watching. You're like, oh, they could die, but once you walk away from the episode, you just kind of be like, yep, I remember this. Why is there no deaths? Like, it's fine in the episode, but when you always look back at the season, it just kind of annoys me. I'm really annoyed how they're just so scared to kill off characters, and we haven't seen a major character death since season 10 episode 7. I am not really counting Alden because that happened off screen, and he was only in 3/4 episodes if you count his Walker self this season. It's just kind of annoying. Now, I'm going to mention spoilers, because I do want to talk about the big moments in this episode, but I'm just going to put it at the end of the review. So, let's get ready for some spoilers. I will be slightly vague, so I'm not going to say who and where and stuff like that. I will just say this happens, but not mention names to who, okay? So, you'll be, like, spoiled that that's going to happen, but not know who it is. So, 1, 2, 3, spoiler warning now. So, there are two massive things in this episode, okay? We get the insert character here gets bit while our groups get separated, and geez, that was intense. Like, you think it would be someone else, and it's just like blatant switch, like, nah, you think it's this person, but no, this person gets bit. And bruh, that scene, like the immediate aftermath, I really loved Aaron, the actor for Aaron. His acting was on point in those scenes with the aftermath of those bits. Bam. Best thing. But the big thing, and I even called it in my review, but then got it slightly wrong, is that they were going to adapt the Rick death scene, but have Pamela shoot one of the guys. And in my review, I was like, it's going to happen to Aaron or Gabriel. I was way off. I'm not going to say who gets shot, but I was correct. Pamela is going to be a person that shoots somebody. And she definitely shot one of our people. And that scene, my jaw dropped. I was like, bruh, I can't believe this happened. It was so well executed. It was so done. Oh, I loved that moment. And that's definitely one of my favourite kind of things. However, I feel like they're not going to commit all the way through with it. I just thought that was fine. Also, quick, like, just remembering that scene, there was very little blood. Like, Pamela grabs a gun off a soldier, shoots, insert character name here, that character falls down, everyone turns around and looks and they're shocked, and there's no blood around the character, and you're like, okay, was that character just shot? Why are they, like, lay on the floor unconscious? I just thought, okay, maybe they just didn't want to show the blood, maybe it's too gory if they did, but I just thought it was very dumb how this character was shot and there was no blood. Just realising that there was no blood in that entire scene. Or when Daryl is like Jesus and carrying everybody and everyone's carrying, just, why is there no blood? But let's talk about the ending. This ending is absolutely gripping, amazing. I love that Negan gets the big F-bomb when he sees the climbing walkers. And I thought that was amazing, just Negan like going, oh, insert F-bomb. It's just, the ending was really good. However, I didn't like how they all go, okay, we need to get into that alleyway. And everyone's run to the alleyway, but only Daryl goes through. And everyone's like, nah, we're not going to go with Daryl. Why did everyone just let Daryl run? Why did no one go with Daryl? I just thought that was a bit weird. So there are a little bit of like kind of nitpicks here, there and there. Like no blood during the kind of character gets shot by Pamela scene. I don't know why there was no blood at all. Like when you get shot, you tend to bleed. Also, the acting was a bit over the top with Lydia. I thought, okay, you're a bit overreacting. You literally just like kissed him like the other day ago. Why are you losing it that you kind of got separated? Also, how did all the characters... I got very confused at the start of this episode. Why at the end of episode 22 only Herschel is found, but at the start of this episode all the kids are there but Coco? Like, why? It's like they realised, oh, we need Judith in this episode, we're just going to have Judith teleport in, when last episode it made us seem like all the kids are at the Commonwealth, but they were suddenly at Alexandria at the start of this episode. I thought it was quite dumb. It was like they forgot where they set up Judith to be at the end of the last episode, and why was Coco the only one at the other place, at the Commonwealth. I just thought it was very weird, very dumb. There are just only a few small bits here, and I didn't like Pamela too much. She wasn't a very good villain. They even dropped her villain music. I thought Pamela was just kind of there, and she was just not very in control. She is definitely one of the worst villains they've had on The Walking Dead. And in my previous reviews, I've talked about how well I've liked Pamela when after her son died and after they got rid of Lance. But I feel like this episode they kind of dropped the ball a little. Like, she does the big Rick scene where she shoots somebody and then she screams and said, you did this. You're like, nah, mate. I did like how Pamela was shocked at what she did and she did feel remorse. But I feel like they need to be more villainous. Instead of her kind of bumbling around. She really just bumbles around this episode. Oh, everyone don't like me. Bring a horde in. Oh no, the horde is attacking. What do we do? I just felt, okay, Pamela, you didn't plan things through, and she's very reactionary, and I just didn't kind of like Pamela this episode. I wasn't vibing with her. Now let's move on to one sentence, that's one word over review. And this episode is so well paced. It is so gripping. This episode is from 1 to 100 intensity. I was pacing. This episode has some very, very great moments. I love the character moments in the first half and the action in the second half. It was very well structured with them like, we need to have this quiet time so our characters can have their final thoughts between the big battle and then have the big battle at the end. The walkers and our characters reacting to the new walkers, absolutely amazing. There's very few negatives in this episode, and I would have to say this episode is just fantastic. That is what I'd say. It's a fantastic episode and easily already my favourite episode this season. I know I said I really liked last episode, but I like this one way more. This is my new favourite episode this season, and I don't think episode 24 can top this unless they kind of fix all the few issues I have with them kind of introducing maybe the CRM and a bunch of character deaths and maybe bringing Rick back. Those are the things I need to top this episode in my favourites. This episode is just fantastic, that's what I have to say. But please tell me down below, what do you think of this episode? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What are your pros? What are your cons? Let us know all your thoughts down below. And we'll talk about the big things of this episode. Like, what is your opinion on them trying to adapt the Rick comic death? Do you think it was done well, or do you think it was kind of done badly and just there for shock value? I'd like to know all your thoughts and opinions down below. But if you want more Walking Dead content, please look on the screen. If you want my last review, look in the top right. If you want something recommended for you, look in the bottom. And if you want my latest video, look in the top left. And make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video just to help out the channel and to keep up to date with all things Walking Dead. 2 videos a week, every week. But this is it for me today, so goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you at a later date.